Good evening. I'd like to call the Quabbin Regional School Committee meeting to order. I could ask Jess to read the statement regarding recording, please.
Good evening. This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background could be recorded. The recording could include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Here.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier?
Here.
Oops. Mrs. Chamberlain?
Here.
Ms. Muck?
Here.
Mr. Afonso? Mr. Wiggler?
Yeah.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yeah.
Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Ms. LaRange?
Here.
And Mr. Brophy is not here. Okay.
Thank you. Right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from October 17th, 2024.
So move. Second.
Thank you. Everybody has them in their drive or their place. Is any additions, deletions, corrections, comments? Hearing none. Call, please.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Abstain.
Ms. Garvey?
Abstain.
Ms. Cartier?
Abstain.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Ms. LaRange?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next item would be Student Advisory Council. Turn it over to the superintendent.
Sure, I'm actually going to turn it over to Principal Cook from Hubbardston Center School. She is here with some of her fourth graders and they are really excited and a little bit nervous about talking to you tonight.
So these three are exceptional role models at Hubbardston Center School, and they were asked to come by me, they were invited, talk to you about some great things that are going on at school there. So go ahead up, you three, they'll introduce themselves, they're all prepared to do so.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Owen Shotwell. I love playing sports. Hi, my name is Kaden McHugh and I love to play football outside with my dad. Hi, my name is Fiona Fonda and I love practicing field hockey with my mom.
Fiona.
We are here tonight to talk about belonging at Hubbardston Center School. This year, we started to have school-wide read-out louds where we all read the same book and discussed it as a homeroom. Then there was a school-wide activity that all students do. Last year, we put our name on puzzle pieces that were hung around the school, showing that all students were part of the HCS puzzle piece. This year, we read the book A Little Spot of Belonging. It's about a spot named Spot, who explains that belonging is a feeling of safety, inclusion in a community. The book teaches the importance of self-love and belonging. Every morning we start the school day with morning announcements and students hear about a character education trait. Each month there is a focus on a different trait. So far, we have focused on respect, responsibility, and gratitude. During the announcements, we hear the word, the definition, and the example of how to show that character education trait. For example, one way to show gratitude is by saying thank you. Another way to show gratitude is by naming something you are grateful for each morning. All morning announcements end with the message, remember, you belong here and we believe in you. Last year, we started to participate in all school meetings each month. All classrooms, all camp students, and all staff members joined together in the gym. Talk about all students and staff feeling safe, comfortable, and feeling like they belong. Students are recognized for earning a Bixley Victory ticket or being part of the Comic Club, our reading and math incentives programs. The main focus is on the monthly character education trait, which will be gratitude this month. We hear about examples of that trait being seen throughout the school and watch a brief video or a song connected to this. Students really like this assembly each month.
Great job. Do we have any questions?
Sure, I have a question. So I'm sure and I know your teacher prepared you well for this, but I'm curious, when you went home, did you do this once for your parents to see if they liked it, or did you just come in here and say, I'm just gonna wing it?
Kinda.
Good to know. Good job.
Good job.
Very good, yeah.
Anyone else?
The principals on the screen behind you are clapping for you too. Look at that. High fives. So I'd like to ask a question. I think you have another upcoming all-school meeting because all of the school committee has been invited to attend. So do you know the date of that by any chance? Friend.
Oh.
This Friday?
Next Friday.
Next Friday, the
22nd.
22nd. So if you want to see
No,
their
that was
all-school
Friday.
meeting, the 22nd.
I have a question. Do you think that this has helped the school culture? And how have the students felt about it? How do you think it's been received by them? Do you think it's changing or it's different?
I think it's definitely helping and I think it's changing and telling them that they belong there and that they're a part of the school.
Great. Anyone else have any comments? Yoda, you look like you want to say something. No, no thoughts. Okay, no worries, no worries. What's your favorite trait that you've learned so far?
Respect. Yeah, probably respect because everyone needs to be respected. Yeah, respect.
That's great. Really proud of you guys for coming here tonight.
Thanks.
Appreciate you sharing with us.
Do Ruby and Ella have any questions?
I don't know. I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Tell you guys worked very hard. Yeah, it's tough.
Great, thank you.
Thank you
very
for
much.
coming. Thanks, Karen.
Okay, next up, we have our student committee, student representatives report. So Ruth and Ella, the floor is yours, whoever'd like to start.
I put together a little presentation.
1 second to pull it up.
No problem.
Maybe our fourth graders will have questions for you.
Did I stand by the microphone?
I think you'll be okay.
Okay, there you go, Ruby.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys basically a little update of the senior class and what we've been working on this fall. So we had our annual senior fall bazaar this past October, and it's basically our class fundraiser that we have every year. We had it last year and this year we're hoping that the following classes keep continuing it and following it up. So the class officers during the summer through the fall, we would get together, we'd have meetings about every week, every other week. And sometimes we would go out to local businesses and we would ask for sponsorships to help us pay for the costs. Like we had food, we had a face painter there. And we needed money for materials and things. So this was our flyer and these are just some local sponsorships that we had from throughout the community. We got different sponsorships from money to gift cards to even materials and volunteer services and everything. And I just have some photos of what went on. So this was our little craft table we had. We had pumpkin painting and we had coloring sheets. And this is a student volunteer. And in the back, you can kind of even see we had a little soccer station. So on the back fields and the field hockey fields, we had youth soccer games going on. So that's kind of how we got the kids to be aware of it and come in. So we would have people standing in the parking lot being like, go down to our fall bazaar, have some fun, like go get your face painted and whatever. So it was really great for the kids to go out and do that. I just have 2 more pictures on that. This was our face painter. Sorry, they're a little blurry, but and then we just have some more games over here. You can see all the people that were there. And then the next slide, I just have some conclusions. So for the senior class, we got over 40 plus students, senior and other classes, to volunteer at this event. So that's like about half of the senior class, just 40 students there. And we just really liked it because it brings up the whole community together. We get families, students, like everything there, you know, everybody in the community. It was a great fundraiser. We made a really good profit off of it. And we're still deciding what we're gonna do with all this money. We have, you know, prom funds, class trips, everything we want to plan for senior year, but we have a good base off of this, so, yeah. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, I just wanted to say that having the youth soccer games there is absolutely genius because so like my brother, he was on the youth soccer teams, and so obviously like we were there, and you know, once he's there, he's like, oh, I wanna go do this and that. Absolutely genius. I think it was a great fundraiser.
Exactly, and we even had like free popcorn vouchers that we would go around to the field and we would hand out, so then they had to go and get the free popcorn.
Oh,
Yeah, very,
good marketing.
yeah. Any other questions?
Ruby, I think your class restarted this. It had been a Quabbin tradition and you restarted it. Do you have plans like to hope that the junior class picks it up next year, or?
Yeah, so my class advisor, Mr. Nozick, actually, he used to have it when he was a senior here. So that's kind of what made us pick it up again. And we even invited the juniors to come help and like volunteer, so they saw how we ran it and they came to a few of our meetings and everything, hoping that they're gonna carry it on. And I hope they do, but we'll see if they do.
Another genius idea. Great.
Okay, sounds good.
Sure.
Yes.
So I don't know if Ella's gonna speak, but I guess I'm going back. I think there is a correction for the minutes because Ella's not listed. She was the last.
Not here last meeting.
I was here that.
She was. Yep.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Good.
I'll fix the minutes.
We need to re-vote then, or just make,
I don't think
we
so.
all agree to that, right? We all know Ella was here. Okay. Thank you.
I remember her being here.
I don't have anything to add today.
All right, great. Okay. Next item is the administrative reports and superintendent of schools.
So in your packet, you have our report, and I got a little carried away with photos this month, so I apologize. But as we told you before, we're just going to sort of highlight some of the important takeaways. So in my report, I've aligned it with our district goals. So one thing that we did that was new and different this year that really helped us work on goal 1 about having positive opportunities and equitable opportunities to connect to the district is we ran for the first time, I don't know about ever, but the first time since I've been here, a full day of parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level. So typically we devote a half a day to parent-teacher conferences, but we had gotten feedback both from families and teachers that sometimes it just wasn't enough time to have a meaningful conversation with families and sort of build that partnership. So we tried a full day, and so far our feedback that we've gotten has been very positive, both from the teachers and the parents, and maybe some of the elementary principals want to add a comment about that. But early indication would be that we should continue to offer this to families. I did share some pictures in there. The top one is from a Veterans Day assembly over at Ruggles Lane School, put on by the 4th grade. It was absolutely adorable. They sang all of the songs for each of the branches. I think that was my favorite part of the day. But it was very, very well done. They had a lot of veterans in attendance. It was really nice. This weekend is a big weekend for our drama club because we have our Beauty and the Beast production. You can buy your tickets online or at the door. I put the show times in there, but it is all a buzz in the hallways of the middle high school. I'm sure Ruby and Ella can back me up on that, but everybody's talking about it. They're in full rehearsal and we're super excited about it.
Is that a straight play or a musical?
Musical. Musical, yes.
Isabel, our former student committee rep, is gonna be Belle.
Yes, you'll recognize a lot of participants for sure. Because they've come through your meetings here. Over when we were away down the Cape, we talked about teacher hearing a report from our teachers. So I spoke with President Berenger, and the way that he would like to do it this year is to have a little bit of more time with us and meaningful conversations. So we're going to schedule quarterly meetings with Deb, Mark, myself, and Mr. Berenger. And so we'll have our first one this week. We can report on that at the next school committee meeting. I think I shared this last time we were together, but I'm not 100% sure. But the acting Commissioner of Education, Russell Johnston, is going to visit us on Monday, November 25th. We plan to highlight and showcase how we're using grant funding to expand our inclusive practices at the middle school level. So it was really interesting to hear our Hubbardston Center students talk about this sense of belonging. This is something that we really have a focus on. And we've applied for multiple grants, both for co-teaching, intervention support. And we hope to be able to not just showcase that to the commissioner, but also the Department of Education offers a lot of opportunities for additional funding and professional development. We believe by, having him in and seeing what we're working on, that he'll also be able to offer us a little bit of feedback and support. I just want to call out the wonderful picture that was actually taken earlier today, but you'll see our post-grad students working with our interns and our community closet group. So this is something that Principal DeMarias kicked off. I don't know if it's last year, Purnima, or the year before. Last year. But they have a whole room dedicated to this community closet. They accept donations of clothing and of food. And Director Jill Langlois was talking to the post-grad teacher about, how can we find some internal opportunities for our post-grads to be more involved in things like fashion and sneakers. So we have some post-grad students who are really interested in being sneaker designers and different things like that. So we thought maybe partnering around the community closet and having two locations, one out of New Braintree, and the other out of the middle high school, because the middle high school, it is in really high demand. People are visiting it all the time. And so we thought it would be great to expand that. So that's a photo. They just received a donation today from, I believe it was the Lions Club. And Purnima will give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if I'm wrong. Thumbs up, okay. So we're excited about that. Also, we met and I shared with you courses that had students of 14 or less. You remember that? And then I was sort of tasked with looking at semester 2 to see if we could do something to increase enrollment. Those numbers are in your packet as well. I'm happy to report that the numbers have changed. We're trending in a more positive direction, getting some of those courses with higher enrollment numbers, and the guidance department feels like that will continue to happen as they begin to close out semester 1. The other photo is of our trip to the MASS conference. And the last photos are really pictures of what is happening on a day-to-day basis in our schools. The first one is from Early Learning Center. We have a partnership with Mock where they're actually holding play groups in each of our preschool locations. They held the first one in Hubbardston at Principal Cook's School. Parents reached out to me right away and said, can we please continue this? This was so great. It's an opportunity for families who maybe are unfamiliar with the school because these are their, oldest children at that point. It's a great way to get them in the door to become familiar with all of our locations and sort of ease that transition and make those connections early. I really had to showcase the second photo. I'm sure you look at it and think, I don't even see a kid's face, you know what I mean? But this is what's so important about it. So this was a second grade writing sample. I was randomly walking around classrooms. And when you may not know this about me, but the principals will probably back this up. But when I walk around classrooms and I look at writing, I pay really close attention to spelling patterns and different things because it's super insightful about students as readers and their level of literacy. So for years, when I would walk around classrooms, you know, I'd be very busy and intrigued, right, by trying to figure out why students are spelling the way they're doing. And we're in our third year of implementation of a new literacy curriculum. And I just have to say that the writing that is on this page, not only is it neat, of course, but more importantly, it is proficient in its spelling and in its content. And I am so incredibly proud of our principals, our teachers, and our students for undertaking this work because it is really, really hard. It's very complex. We are continuing to work on writing. I'm sure Shelley will say more about that. We've, you know, third year with our program, we know we have more work to do with writing because there's also that piece around topic development and writing longer pieces. But if this is any indication of what our students are going to bring up to middle and high school, I know that Principal DeMarias is going to be like, yay, thank you. Because you know, we've had some room to grow there. So I had to share that photo. The other one below is from middle school. And I just can't tell you how much fun it is for me to visit classrooms. But I went into a 7th grade literacy classroom and it was in between when grades were closing and they were going to be posted up. And this teacher offered, and I wish I could remember, she will be disappointed in me. It was really an enrichment project for kids, but she had like a term for it, right? And so basically she gave them a theme and it was around fires, believe it or not. And they could research all of these different mill fires and different things like that. Because you remember, of course, we're very dry right now, right? And so then the students could offer up a presentation and they talked to one another about the differences historically and what was happening during the times of the fire. And it was just an activity where they had so much choice in what they were doing, but the product was just incredible. And it was so fun. And the kids were so attentive to one another. It was awesome. And they got to earn extra credit points, you know, to help kind of boost their grade. But it was really fabulous. So I share that with you. And I think that Shelley's section is next. Does anyone have any questions for me? Sorry, I got a little carried away.
Sorry. Okay, so we are. The PD for both elementary and middle school is ongoing. It's something that we want to continue building on throughout the course of the year. So our middle high folks are really looking at using PLCs, which are professional learning communities, where the teachers have opportunities to get together to look at student work, look at formative assessments, and really think about how they can support students moving forward, so that we see more positive outcomes in our student growth. In regards to elementary school, the focus is really on writing, and will continue over this next year. In this upcoming PD, we're really looking at the writing process and the writing routines. So really getting students to think about their writing, plan what they're going to be writing, actually have the time to write, and then revise their writing. We're going to really focus on looking at teaching teachers and students how to use 2-column notes to really think about their writing and plan that out and what that would look like, and then using a top-down
topic web to help students organize their writing so that they're able to go from their notes to look at that top-down topic web and have a kind of a vision or a format of how they're going to actually lay their writing out and be able to follow that sequence within their writing. So we're really excited about that. We'll be engaging in that throughout the school year. Back to my the administrators just recently as a whole group, we just participated in some professional development with Dr. Holly around culturally and linguistically responsive teaching and learning. We're also going to be doing some work on Monday with the high school folks, so high school administrators and the instructional leadership team and the academic coordinators. They will be looking or engaging in a CLR instructional support workshop. So they'll be able to get that training from Dr. Holly and then use that to support teachers in the classroom. I think.
Any questions for Shelley? Director Kevin Clark is not with us tonight, but he has some notes in his section if anyone has any questions on that. One thing I want to share, because I just don't remember if we met in between or not, but when we met with the towns, we shared sort of a capital project plan with them. And some of our towns have already taken action on some of the items that were in that. OCAM's one of them. So we just really want to thank them for really paying attention to that, jumping on it and really prioritizing that for us. So Director Walsh is here. And I think he has his report there. If anyone has any questions for him, I'm sure he's happy to clarify anything that's there. I think one of the big things that's happening is that the MCAS platform is changing. So it's been Pearson Access Next forever. So we're all a little nervous about that because honestly, it took us a long time to kind of learn that old platform and now they're changing it on us. But any questions for Andrew?
The only thing I would kind of little bit is the fifth line item there. The FCC has long been a supporter of connectivity for schools, and they reimburse a lot of our internet costs as long as we file some of their rules. This year, they've launched a pilot program that will cover some schools for the next 3 years for $200 million worth of cybersecurity products, including software and training. It's a very limited program. There were 2,700 schools that applied. And knowing that there were $3.7 billion worth of requests. So that is a huge need right now for schools that we're not able to fill because it's such a cost. So I'm hoping that if this program is successful, they'll expand that and fulfill a lot of the needs that we're not currently meeting.
I assume that we were one of the ones not chosen.
We don't know. The window to apply closed on November 1st. So right now they're going through all 2,700 applications and they're trying to pick representative schools from across the country. So I don't think we'll know probably until the end of December. My fingers are crossed, but I'm not super hopeful.
Julia?
Last time we talked about health insurance and how our initial renewal for health insurance was going to be 14.3%. I have good news. Through some creative thinking, we pulled together our insurance broker and our insurance advisory committee and have come up with a solution that has allowed us to renew our insurance with a 2.2% increase for both staff and the district. It involves putting essentially all of our employees on a high deductible plan and then using the savings from that plan to buy supplementary insurance to basically cover folks to get the same coverage they had before. So it's a new approach for us and we have a new partner that we're working with, but it's allowed me to sleep at night in terms of the budgetary impact. So that's good news. The second item on there is assessment calculations. We had talked when we met with ours about looking at what a 3-year rolling average might do for assessments, and you asked me to crunch some numbers. In your packet, again, I apologize, there's a paper with lots of tiny numbers on it, it's the world I live in. But this shows what the impact to just the operational assessments would be. So keep in mind that typically for debt and those projects, we lock enrollment at the year when the debt was assessed. So instead of sort of muddying the waters with that, I limited to just that. So for a big takeaway is that for most communities, doing that has a minimal impact. So if you look at the, I don't know if the copies in your packets are in color, but if they are, green means an increase in your assessment, red means a decrease in your assessment. And for most communities, that change is under $20,000. And so at least for these couple of years that we've looked at, that not a huge impact from doing that, but obviously something that we can consider moving forward. Well, back to Lauren's. Go ahead.
Just one question on the insurance. Have, you know, of other school districts that have taken this approach, and is it something new going on, or?
It's really similar to what we did with the HRA, right, where we funded people's deductible. So it's the same kind of idea. We're just sort of using that to provide a wraparound so that we can have, because the higher your deductible is, the smaller your premiums are. And so we take the cost savings between that higher deductible plan and use that to buy the supplementary insurance, which was less than what Blue Cross Blue Shield was offering. So we did talk to a couple of other clients. They do have a couple of other public sector clients that are doing this because this is kind of a new approach. But they had a lot of corporate clients that had been doing it.
On the high deductible.
Yep.
So let's say I have that in, you know, whatever illness I have, et cetera. So the secondary insurance kicks in.
Yep.
If we get a large number of people who need to have the secondary insurance kicked in, is that problematic if we want to do this again next year or the year after? Because we may be hitting the supplemental a lot harder than maybe other people do.
So their actuarial teams are pretty good about estimating those sorts of things, and we've gone with a conservative number. We've sort of overfunded our liability just for cases like that. And obviously after the first year, they'll look at it, but based on the numbers they've run, I feel pretty confident. And also the other thing that we have in our back pocket is that in this year's budget, we budgeted for a 4.65% increase, with this only being a 2.2% increase. We have some flexibility in the budget if their actuaries weren't accurate and if have sort of a higher demand on that, we have funds available for it.
Okay, cool.
Yep. It was very well received by our faculty, so we were happy about that. And I think Julie and her team, they pulled the insurance advisory committee together and they worked with them. So they worked through a lot of questions prior to the presentation. That was really helpful. And Jill is up.
Yes. Can everybody hear me okay?
We sure can.
Yeah. All right, perfect. So as we're kind of getting into like budget season, I've decided to kind of highlight some data that maybe kind of gets overlooked when we consider what the needs are. I meet with the special education teachers pretty frequently, and I've kind of put out there, what are your asks? And that ask can't be more bodies. So like in the absence of new bodies, like what do you guys think would be helpful in helping you do your jobs and you know, be the most efficient that you can be? And one of the things that it's pretty equal across all of the buildings is the number of evaluations that they have to complete. So I just put some numbers down as far as like, you know, just to highlight that, you know, we are doing a lot of evaluations every year. And all these do tend to fall on the special education teachers to complete a bulk of them. So I think for them, being able to continue to do their jobs and service all the students that they have to service, it's just kind of keeping in mind that there are ancillary activities that they're also doing that I think kind of gets overlooked when we start considering the needs for the budget. So those numbers are there. You can certainly look over them. Let me know if you have any questions. And then I guess just for me kind of being new to this position, if there's information that you guys would like to see me report on, either monthly or if there's something different every month that you'd like for me to report on, please let me know. I'm happy to, you know, kind of tailor what I report based on what you guys would like to know.
Any questions for Jill? So Jill, I think what you're showcasing is, and you're really just focused on reevaluations, right? The numbers for initial evaluations are not here.
No, they
But
are.
in
There's,
some-
there's the active referrals. Right now, the active referrals for initial evaluations, we have 86 across the district.
Oh, okay, I
So
see.
that is in there. That does not include the ones that have been completed to date. So we've had 2 months of school. So in that 2 months, we've probably already had 15 or so would be my guess. So this is kind of like from this point on, how many active referrals we currently have. So we have initial evaluations in addition to the reevals, which right now for this year, we had 153 reevaluations that are due at some point throughout this year. This does not include, we have additional assessments that come up as time goes on. And, we could have initial referrals, beyond the 86 that we currently have because we get requests, somewhat frequently for initial evaluations. So that number will continue to grow, most likely.
Thanks.
School psychologists, do
We have 2 school psychologists.
they handle
Yep.
all?
No, well, they do some testing, but our special educators do their own testing.
Yeah.
And that varies, I think, Jill, from district to district.
It does. So our school psychologists do all like our cognitive type testing, and the special ed teachers do the academic testing. There are some districts where the school psychologists do all of the testing. And then, right now it works out where our special ed teachers are doing a lot of the testing. They know the students know them. But yeah, we do, the school psychs do a lot of testing as well, because most of the time when we're doing a reeval, there's academic and there's psychological testing that's being completed. We do have some students who might be related service only. So that number may not always be just special ed teachers who are doing testing. It could be our related service providers as well.
So school psychologists do the WISC and those kind of tests where the special ed teachers do the achievement portion. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. Yep.
Other questions? And then the last part you cannot miss. This is like, where's Waldo, but where's Ruby? Did everybody find Ruby's picture in the end of the Mr. Myville's report? But you will see that Ruby was honored at the MIAA Sportsmanship Summit as one of our seniors. So congratulations, Ruby. Super exciting. And we've had a really great fall season.
Yeah.
So much fun.
You good?
Yep, we're
All
good. Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Okay, school business manager, presentation of warrants, please.
Since our last school committee meeting, bi-weekly payroll warrants 9, 10, and 10.1, weekly payroll 16, 17, 18, and 19, and accounts payable 31H, 32B, 33A, 34B, and 35 have all been processed by the business office.
Thank you. Thank you again for being creative and working on that insurance. That's great news. Appreciate that. Okay, subcommittee reports. Administrative review,
Nothing,
audit,
same,
budget. Nothing. Central office,
nothing.
collective bargaining,
Nothing at this time.
building grounds and safety,
Nothing.
right along. Policy review and reform.
Going so well.
We were.
This is a split report. I make a motion that we remove ADF, wellness program, AC, non-discrimination and harassment from the table and adopt.
We have a second?
Second.
Sure. Do we need to vote on those separately?
I guess that's up to you. We usually vote on them separately, but I guess we could do them both together. Both being removed from the table. So. Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Deschamps.
Yes.
Mr. Willannon.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Ms. Garvey.
Yes.
Ms. Cartier.
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Ms. Muck.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Nutter.
Yes.
Ms. LaRange.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I make a motion, we rescind policy ACA, ACAB, and ACE. They have been replaced by policy AC and are no longer totally applicable.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Marsh.
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps. Mr. Willannon.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Ms. Garvey.
Yes.
Ms. Cartier. Ms. Cartier.
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Ms. Muck.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Nutter.
Yes.
Ms. LaRange.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I'm gonna switch over to Lee here. A few weeks ago, I came down with COVID and I'm sitting there in my partly muddled state. And the phone rings and it's Lee. He said, well, are you gonna come to your meeting? Well,
I said it politely.
he was very polite about it. Would you like us to carry on? Yes, please. So the last two items are from the last meeting and Lee and that crew were kind enough to carry on, probably please without me and turn it over.
We missed you. We're going to take a vote that we missed you, but we did. Okay, so in your packet, you'll have, so the first thing we'll have, and we'll approach is the naming issue. So you have the second draft, which we talked about last month. And then you have a third draft. And so I will make a motion and hopefully it's seconded and then we'll discuss, kind of what we've done during our meeting. So I make a motion that what is shown as the third draft dated 11/14/2024 in your packet or on your computer, be voted in as the naming policy for the Quabbin Regional School District.
Is there a second?
Second. All right, so we started the meeting at the second draft, and we looked it over, and there were a couple, and you'll see they're in red, There were just a couple word changes that we were looking at initially. Then one issue came up, the first issue of when we talked about setting aside, designating an area in the middle high school campus we had in Paren, Dorado. And then a question was brought up saying, okay, well, if we vote this in and we're speaking, pointing just towards an area, if the committee, not the school committee, but the superintendent's committee wanted to take another approach, that we have to revisit this if it didn't include setting aside a certain area in the Quabbin, in the middle high school area. So there was a lot of discussion in that, on that issue. And so we added the in red or an alternative approach as we went along. So we went along there, and then there was some discussion saying, do we really want to hand this off to the superintendent for her to form a committee or committees who, I don't want to say in all probability, but possibly going through the same issues we're going through here that have been ongoing for a year. And we sort of weren't feeling too good about that. And then I raised another point myself of saying, we didn't address how we were going to approach this, because a lot of the other districts or schools have only deceased people can be done, or deceased and living people can be done. And I sort of said, well, how do we want to handle that? Do we want both? If we have both, is there a higher standard for a living person to have something named after him or her than a deceased person? Should we vote 2/3 for a living person? So that engendered some conversation. And then as we went along, once again, I think the whole point we got into was this whole equity issue. On one hand, if you're involved in athletics or we're doing sort of a sports thing, it's much easier to play around with a football field or a baseball field or a soccer field where you can put some sort of plaques or this or that, but how about the non-athletes? How do you really equitably get them involved in some sort of naming if that's the case? And we had some discussion on that. And then finally, not finally, but I guess as we talked about this, I think all of us kind of came to our conclusion that, we really don't want to do this. I mean, that's essentially what it came to. We're having difficulty equitably finding a way that will be good across, all aspects of the district. And especially if you're getting into the fields or the buildings, et cetera, because once again, and I think we discussed this before, putting a name on something just negates everybody else and, within that area, if you're doing just one specific naming for one specific area. And so pretty much we decided that, okay, well, if none of us at the meeting felt like we wanted to name anything, then let's go forward with this. So essentially what this third naming policy is that we're not going to name buildings or fields, and we're not going to put anything on the lap of the superintendent. We'll keep the names of, sort of like in the second, we'll keep the names of whatever's named right now and go forward with that. And then number or bullet there, this policy in no way impedes any current or future recognitions within a QRSD, because essentially for the last, probably as many years as Vicky has been on, that's what we do. We do recognitions. I mean, you walk into all those neat banners up there, they're recognitions of teams that have accomplished something, whether it's a mid-watch championship, whether it's a state championship. That's what we do in the school. I know I think it's a trophy case for the theater and music people. Yeah, and it's a trophy case. And that's the way they do it. It's a recognition. These trophies are recognitions. And so I think our feeling is that the word recognition encompasses pretty much what we've been doing now, or not now, but for the last 50 years or so, without going to a whole thing and saying, let's name something, let's specifically name something. And that just doesn't even get into the whole bushes of, what if there's a competition for naming? What if two groups want to name? There's a whole bunch of other stuff we could go through. And I think we went through some of that. Now, because the second draft was in play or is in play because, this group said, well, let's go forward with the second draft and see what we can get with it. That's why it's included here. So I guess our point of view, the subcommittee's point of view is we want to go with a naming policy that is no naming, and have a vote on it. But if there are people here that think or say that, gee, we'd rather be able to name stuff, the second draft is still in play. And so that's what I'm saying, and maybe other subcommittee members want to kick in if they want, or anybody else.
You girls, you look like you were chomping at the bit to chime in.
No, I think that's good. I think that when you introduce naming things, you get a lot of like you were saying, like the athletic people, they're gonna take over. But I know last time you were saying like the real people we should be recognizing, like the custodians and stuff. And realistically, like, I don't know if we can find a way to do that. And I think this is just easier.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Committee members, input?
I say move the question. I think we've talked about. I mean, we couldn't come to an agreement as far as how would you distinguish one from the other, or there were just too many variables. Somebody would get hurt.
Anyone else? I think Lee really summarized the meeting very well and captured all of our discussions from that meeting. And what we concluded at that time was, because of all these reasons, we have really taken this for a year now. We have worked on this in several committees. We've brought it back to the full committee. We go, and ultimately what ends up happening is we conclude the meetings with, maybe we shouldn't just name anything at all. So I really feel like it makes perfect sense for what we're trying to achieve, that to keep it equitable. If the superintendent feels like she wants to, create some new recognition program at some point, maybe electronically on a website, the options are there. But we only have so many buildings and so much space to put things, so I really believe that this would be a good option.
The only thing I would add is there will be people out there that won't be happy with this vote if it occurs, but that's fact of life.
Okay, any further discussion?
Are we gonna vote on this now? So, no, you said the second draft?
Oh, the third
The
draft.
third draft,
Okay.
Date is
That's what I thought.
the 11/14. Yeah, no, four.
the no naming policy. Do we have to put this on the table for 30 days?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, it's not for 30 days. It's until our next meeting.
okay, that's right, sorry.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Yes.
Mr. Willannon,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Garvey,
Yes.
Ms. Cartier,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Muck,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
We're voting to put it on the table, right?
correct.
Yes.
Mr. Nutter
Yes.
and Ms. LaRange.
Yes. Hey,
And the second thing we covered was MCAS numbers and scores, et cetera, and I'll turn that over to Shelley or the superintendent.
Sure. So some of the things that we highlighted in regards to our MCAS scores, we had some really nice celebrations. Most of our schools made significant progress towards our goals. We do have some work that we still want to do, but 3 of our schools received 4 out of 4 points for chronic absenteeism. That is something that we they give us towards our accountability in regards to how we compare to how they rank our schools. We've been doing quite a bit of work on trying to reduce our chronic absenteeism across the district at all levels. We have a lot of things in place. Some of those things include reaching out to parents, setting up plans for some of those students. We have a district social worker, some of our counselors that also reach out to parents and students. They really talk about the importance of coming to school every day. So we are making some gains in that area. The high school received all of their points for advanced coursework, so that's really nice to see that we continue in that direction. The 6th grade at the middle school, their ELA growth was 55%, which is really nice. We really look to have students' growth fall between 40 to 60%. And that would really kind of tell us that they're on target to make growth in their academics and on MCAS. Hardwick and Hubbardston had achievement for each grade level in each content area that was higher than the state. Hubbardston Center School, their 4th grade math growth was actually 80%, which was huge. Hardwick's math growth was 70%, which is above that 60% level. OCAM, their achievement in grade 3 for math and ELA was higher than the state. And Ruggles' achievement in grade 5 for science was also higher than the state. So we do have some work that we still want to do. We do have some things that are in place currently. We changed our grading and schedule. We had some grading and scheduling changes for the middle and high school. So that will help with increased continuity, build relationships with students, and build their students' confidence. We have our implementation of Back on Track for students in middle school and high school. And we've seen some really nice data coming out of that over the first quarter. So we're seeing a reduction in the number of students that are receiving a flat 50 in their classes, which means that they are completing more of their work. The number of assignments that have been completed within the Back on Track room was
In the
numbers were
hundreds.
so high. I think that last time it was like 150 something.
It's even more than
It's
that.
probably even more now. So they've worked really hard. I really want to applaud the teachers that have been working along with the students and reaching out to the classroom teachers to get those assignments and really helping the students in supporting them and getting those assignments completed, because they would be assignments that they would probably receive a 0 or not get credit for if they weren't handed it. So they've been working really hard on that. We have intervention in both the elementary and middle schools that are happening right now. So we really look at student data, We determine goals for the students, and we're really targeting instruction around those goals so we can help close some of those gaps. We have individual coaches and intervention specialists in each of our elementary schools and the middle school, and we're really focusing on student data. And then within the high school level, we're focusing on the PLCs, as I mentioned, in our professional development sessions throughout the year. So it's another opportunity to look at student data and student growth to kind of help us boost the academics for all of our students.
Dr. Al?
Yeah, two good points. It seems to me historically, and including now, Hubbardston has been the top performing school in our district. And I think kudos should be passed on to the principal and the teachers, and so forth in Hubbardston. Good job, guys. And the second point is with this stupid new ruling about MCAS doesn't count anymore, my assumption is the quality of the data will deteriorate significantly. And I'm wondering what if you have any comment or any opinion or anything.
In regards to the fact that it doesn't count anymore?
Yes.
I think it's a difficult position. I can see both sides of the coin. The one thing I would say about that is we're still going to be doing MCAS in schools.
That's what I know that, but I said, I think the quality of the data will deteriorate significantly. That's my question. Do you see that or not?
I'm not sure yet. I think we're still going to be looking at that data and really pushing students to really try their best on MCAS because it does give us a good measure as to how we're performing in regards to other students in the state. So we always want to be the best, right? And we want to push our students to be able to achieve. So I think that's the kind of direction that we would go in. Could it deteriorate? I think there may be some students that might say, well, it doesn't count. I don't have to put forth a great deal of effort, but that's not something that is just here in Quabbin. I think that would be something that we would see across the state.
Oh, I think it would
Would
be
continue.
much more so in a Lawrence or a Chicopee or a Boston or a Fall River than it would be here. But even still.
If I can just take a second to clarify. So I know Shelley shared some of the data rather quickly, but I just want to call out that we had many, many celebrations in all of our schools. And I don't have all the data in front of me, but I want to caution us about thinking one sort of school is outperforming the others. I think we have pockets of amazing celebration in all of our schools. And our goal is always to look at what's happening in those other buildings to see, what we're doing differently. Or, it's also the data we use when we're thinking about staffing and different things like that. So I know, there's a lot of each school has significant celebrations. So I just want to call that out. The other thing I just want to mention is that I did attend a meeting with the commissioner. It's actually hidden in my little report here, but while we're on the topic of MCAS, he also is really communicating in a strong way about some things that he's going to make changes to this year that I just want to bring to your attention because I think it's important. But one of them is we have several teachers and so do a lot of schools across the Commonwealth that are on emergency licensure. He is going to fade emergency licenses out. And that was something that they did during COVID times. It's been really difficult to hire certain working groups. But he has a plan for moving people towards certification rather than granting the emergency licenses as we have. The other thing I want to mention is last year, and I mentioned this because it could impact our accountability data for next year. But last year, you remember, we ran some credit recovery courses, and those, if students attended the sessions for certain durations of time, we could put into the state to basically recover their attendance. So if they came to a Saturday session, they earned 1 day of attendance in school. And so the state actually changed their attendance records. They will not do that again this year. They said if we want to run credit recovery programs, we can certainly do that for credit recovery, but they will not, the quality of the programs that people implemented across the state were too inconsistent. They won't be doing that again. And Ruby and Ella, brace yourself for this one because it's big. Ruby, not as much for you. But the commissioner has a real focus on student learning time. And it used to be that, you know, we might come to June and if we had something odd happen, we lost power and we canceled school, it would be like, you don't have to make that up. The acting commissioner is saying you must make up all of your days really throughout the year. If you've reached your 5 days and you're at that point where perhaps your bargaining agreement doesn't allow for more, you can call and request a waiver, but they're really holding tight that if we miss a day due to anything, weather, strikes, you know, tornadoes, things like that, that we must find ways to make those days up. So I put that forward. We all need to hope for really good winter weather this year, so we don't miss too many days, but it's very different. He has a very different approach than the last commissioner we had. So I share that with you, but get interesting. Yeah.
Is this guy gonna survive and be appointed? Do we have any feeling on that or?
So yeah, I'm actually glad you asked that. They were running focus groups last weekend. I was really disappointed because I think they mentioned it when we were down the Cape, but it was the first time I had heard it and the focus group was like on Saturday in Worcester. So they are running some focus groups on him. I can tell you my personal experience with him outside of him being commissioner. He's a very, very smart, articulate man. I think he is very student focused. I actually was telling the middle high school team that when he comes to visit, we're not going to do a dog and pony show because he knows what authentic teaching and learning looks like. And he's going to know in 5 second flat if we're just, you know, kind of performing for him. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I'm eager to see what happens.
I'll just point out that many years ago, when we had the ice storm.
Yes.
We lost a number of days of school. We weren't allowed, and I think we requested some sort of waiver and we weren't given one. And then what was it, 2 or 3 years later, when something tumultuous happened in the Boston area and those children lost a number of days in school, Shazam, they found a way that they didn't have to make this up. So once again, when we speak of equity, I'll be curious to see if there is equity.
Yeah, and he was also really clear that, you know, you're making up a day for a day. So we do have half days but they're really full days, right? Because teachers work the other half of the day. But he's basically saying, you know, if you get to that 5 and you're at the end of the year and you want to give a half day for one of those days you miss, that's not on the table either.
Anyone else?
So sorry, Ruby, but you'll have your end date already.
Colleen, do you think that would put us in the position of, say we had a couple of days missed, that it might eat into like an April break or a February break?
Yeah, I mean,
End of the year.
it's a good question. My philosophy is maybe if we talk about it now, it won't happen. So let's talk about it now. You know, this year could be challenging for us because we do have a long break over Christmas. And so we don't have too many days. Once we're at our 5 days, there are only sort of 3 additional days before July 1. And by contract, we can't go past July 1. So you know, means we'd have to use 8 days, which we haven't done in a long, long time. But if we had one of those ice storms or something like that, it could be a real possibility. We wouldn't be alone in that, though, would be my guess. But now that we talked about it, it's not going to happen.
We'll see. Anyone else? Okay. That's it, right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, student services? Technology.
All right, we met tonight for the first time since the beginning of the school year, and we just discussed how the school year has started. It was a little rough at the start because when we switched to the new ISP, we have 2 providers in this district, and they didn't play well in the sandbox. So our old provider kind of held us together until everything got back together. And part of the budgetary process last year was consolidation of some of the software that we use. And that had a little bit of an adjustment period as well for the teachers. And then we looked at, we all got this in our email, the projected technology capital expenditure for 5 years. And there's a lot of information in there, and I'm not going over it, but it's well done. And if you have any questions, you can.
That was not emailed to everyone. That was just for your subcommittee. So I'm happy to share it out.
It was in a group email for the hold on. I'm gonna prove Jess wrong.
I'm sure it'll be easy to do. Hmm.
No, it was in a 3-box thing about the collaborative meeting.
Is the towns?
Yeah.
Oh, probably what's in
okay.
there.
All right. But I don't believe, did we email that to all the committee members?
It's probably in the drive. The notes are in the drive.
Okay, well, maybe you could share
I'll make
it
sure that we
again.
share it. I will share that out.
Great.
Do you want me to do it?
Is
Or
that? I can share it. I'm
just
gonna share it.
don't let anyone respond to you.
Don't everybody respond to me.
All right, any questions for Dave?
I have a question, yeah.
No.
Dave, did you guys talk about the phishing tests and how many phishing tests are failing or anything like that?
Yes, and that is gonna be run again, right?
Yeah, so, is Andrew still on?
Andrew's here. We did, as part of the, there's a grant that runs through the state. We were able to get into it 2 years ago that carried over into June. We were not able to get into it for the last full year, but we are signing up for it again to start again in January this coming year. One of the things they did was they did phishing tests every month. That sent out random, very, very devious emails that looked very legitimate. And if a staff member clicked on them, they got a little pop-up saying that you were caught and you have to do a little bit of a training, and it forced them to do a 10-minute video to give them some accountability and to kind of learn from their mistake. And I was happy to say that we had a very low instant click-through rate. We had under a dozen staff members out of all of our employees, that's including facilities, custodians, teachers, everybody, click it once, and we had one user click through twice. And when I was talking to other school systems, that was a response rate that they were very surprised at, because it was a much higher, a lot of them had a much higher click-through rate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Ad hoc school district configuration.
This subcommittee was formed some years ago and wanted to the couple we had at the time. I think we're over that. Do we still want to have this subcommittee?
I was thinking this subcommittee, the ad hoc would address leases.
Okay,
Coming
okay,
up.
good.
That's my thought. I mean, I don't.
I think that's a great idea. It's just what I know we started with.
Yeah.
I think it's okay now.
Yeah.
Let it be then for now.
Could it be?
No, well, you're ad hoc. We'll leave it on the list. All right, no unfinished business? Any public comment? Public. Okay, school committee concerns. Anyone?
I just think, I think the committee, the shout out to all of our sports teams this autumn, the tremendous success. And the athletic director, I think, when I spoke with him last, we have a good number of kids that are coming out for this stuff, so that means they're staying off their cell phones and computers maybe a little more, but just a very successful season for a lot of the teams. I think that's great because, we have years where we don't have successful seasons, but the kids are still good. They do what they're supposed to do, and I think personally you learn from adversity. But this year, at least this fall, we haven't had as much adversity, so that's good. Congratulations to everybody.
Even football.
I think we should share with you our data. Remember that you voted to change the policy about allowing one failure. So I know Mr. Mydell has that data. I looked at it quickly. It is very much in the positive direction. But I don't want to speak without the data. So I'll make sure we bring that to the meeting next time because I know that was an important conversation.
Well, this will be the first, so right now we're setting up for winter sports.
Yeah.
So I guess the next few months will tell whether policy, at least from the point of view of
what intended.
not only, as intended, as kids engaging, not only doing the sport, but also doing what they need to do academically
Yes.
to keep that going. I think that's the interesting
Mhm.
number of numbers that'll come up.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any concerns or comments? All right, new business, report on MASC conference. A number of us attended the conference last week. Coming on off the heels of the election and the MCAS question getting voted, so that was a big topic of discussion, but there was over 850 people in attendance to the conference. It was, I don't think we tallied all of our sessions together this year like we did, but we always try to see what sessions are available and kind of conquer and divide and then share back. But a lot of the value is at a lot of the general sessions where we're meeting other communities and discussing how they do things and sharing ideas and collaborating that way. So that's also helpful. The chair had sent an update and asked me to share out for him that he wanted to thank the district in supporting and allowing him to attend the joint conference of our special organizations last week. Aside from networking with other colleagues and school leaders, in parentheses, so helpful, I attended several sessions that were extremely helpful that will help my understandings related to our school districts and our communities. He attended courts and schools, special education updates, trends in collective bargaining, Title IX updates, effective communication strategies, school and community perspectives, and excellent general sessions that was extremely relevant information for our times. Thank you to my colleagues for giving me the privilege to attend, allowing me to listen, learn, and understand. Mark. So that kind of sums up my thoughts as well. I had attended some on AI model policies, and their kind of guidance was don't have one. It's ever changing. It's changing so fast we can't keep up with it. A policy would never. But perhaps we may want to look at like some guidance, guidelines that we put out, with our technology, privacy and employee policies as well. There was a lot of exhibitors there also, so we're able to meet with them and talk about different things that might help, in some of our day-to-day operations. There was a few sessions this year, I think a little more on regional schools. We never think that there's enough of that topic, but that was well attended. Unfortunately, it was one of the first sessions. So I think people kind of struggle to get there that early, but we were able to get in on some of those as well. And a lot of the communications too with communities about building budgets and you know, the financial issues. So I think overall, we're all in the same boat across the state, really. So I thank, you know, the committee members as well for attending. I think we've all learned a lot, and we'll use this throughout our work in our subcommittees and full committee meetings. So anyone else want to share?
Yeah, this same boat. I won't say it astounds me. Maybe it horrifies me. But most of these issues that come up as if, oh, this is a new problem, this is a new. We have considered, we have dealt with, we have successfully, in almost all cases, worked with that. And our little rural district, which clearly we are, is doing better than almost all of the districts across the state on almost any topic that rears its ugly head.
So I thought there were a few that were pretty good briefly. So Deb and I think Walter and I don't remember everybody that was in, but we went on one. I always call it the branding district, the branding seminar where we sell our district to everybody out there. And one aspect I saw I really liked and Deb took pictures of is when they go to town meetings. They had done this really slick page of the finances, and it wasn't like, okay, here's a page, read all this, there are 20 bullets of what the school is doing, etc. Color coded, there were a couple triangles and circles. It really just grabbed you as you looked at it. Not so much the information. I mean, the information was financial, but I thought just a really nice way to give it to people to kind of simplify stuff. Maybe if they're going into the town meeting and saying, okay, you know, whether you say, here's how much we're spending and, you know, you give a pie and say, okay, this part of the pie is for all of the salaries for everybody that's in the district. This part of the pie is our busing costs, our utilities costs, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, so we kept it and I thought that was something to look at and maybe, you know, the budget subcommittee might want to look at it and say, hey, maybe this is a good idea. So as we get to the point of going to town meetings, we would be able to hand this out and package to everybody in town. The other thing was they have you took a picture, right, of a road show essentially. Right. And so have some school committee members go out to different places. I mean, almost every town has a farmer's market or this or that, something going on. And I thought, you know, we could set something up, set up a tent, and we all got, and I want to say, was it the, I don't know which group but we got all those handouts of a Quabbin, a Big Q, scent.
Air freshener.
Air freshener that you can put in your car.
Yeah.
And I forgot who did it.
That was last year's token.
But to me, that would be something if the kids, you know, did that, something like that, and maybe we have a couple students either and just have something at a farmer's market and hand that out. The other thing would be, there's almost always, you know, the senior centers. We could go, a couple committee members could go once a month and just say, you know, let's have breakfast with your school committee representatives. And so just stuff, there were some really good ideas on that. So that was one thing. The other was, and I won't talk a lot about it because it's very confusing, is the new Title IX. And we went through a lot of slides and just a lot of issues that could come up. It's different than what the original Title IX is. It enhances it. So you still have the original. They didn't make changes to that, but there was a lot of enhancements. And the thing about that is not to go over it too much because it's new and you got to wait for some of this stuff to get through the courts to find out what's going to work and what isn't going to work. But it was an interesting course. And the one I found interesting, and sometimes you look at these and say, you know, I want to go to this one or that one. I don't know if anybody else went into this one, and just talking technology was a seminar on cyber attacks. And what they pretty much went through, you know, they went through phishing, you know, definition of phishing, and then what spear phishing is. And they went into, I didn't bring my notes. I want to say it was the town of Needham. And so the way I understand it, a principal or superintendent had left this town and gone to another school. Somehow an email came from that principal or superintendent, I forgot which, to the Needham school. And then essentially the email went out and was sort of like the Needham school superintendent to the teacher saying, oh, I need your response on whatever it was. And apparently a number of people responded. And so when the administrative staff came in the next day, nothing was working. Everything went down. And so they went through all the stuff they had to do, you have to, and they had a plan, and that was part of the thing. It says, you should have some sort of plan to follow, local police, state police, FBI, DESE, who else?
Homeland,
Who?
Homeland Security.
Yes, Homeland Security, right. And so the women went through a lot of the steps they took and who was responsive and who wasn't really so responsive. And they weren't happy with DESE in the beginning because they were all saying, well, do you have a plan? And a woman said, yeah, part of the plan is calling you to find out, what your advice is. And so, and so they got the ransom. It was $1 million ransom. And of course, maybe the ransom people don't know is we or any district can't pay a ransom because by state law, you can't use state money, to pay a ransom. So unless, the school committee wanted to chip in, 100,000 each or something like that. So you can't pay the ransom. And so their big deal was they had the insurances they had. There was an insurance and there is like a supplemental insurance, et cetera. And the companies were very particular as to pulling out that policy, and saying, okay, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Both attack and even post-attack. And the presenters said you have to be very specific to these companies. And the secondary insurance, I guess, is what they were happy the way it kicked in. So they turned out that even if you have it, it doesn't cover everything. You're still gonna have to pay stuff. So they issued, obviously, the $1 million ransom. The district ended up paying $350,000 to get everything back online. I guess the insurance covered it. But they said it took quite a while and everything was out, totally everything. And then they went through legal ramifications. I mean, if some stuff gets out there, the biggest part that would be the biggest worry is student information, whether it's ID numbers, home addresses, telephone numbers, whatever, whatever the school has on the students, that's a big deal. And of course, teachers and administrators, other people too, but the students are the big concern. If something happens, then, you could be talking about a lawsuit there too. So, I mean, it really was well presented and, cautionary tale for school districts. So those were the three I went to. Well, I went to more, but those were the three best.
I went to the trends of collective bargaining with Walter and with Mark as well, and that was very good. A lot, and again, to reiterate what Dr. Allen says, a lot of this stuff we're doing it. So that it's good to know that the practices that we're forming here are really up to stuff. I attended two others and they were very interesting to me. One was about libraries and policies around items in the collection that become challenged by a member of the public, a parent, how it's handled. They went through a number of policy steps that would really help shore it up. And I came back and we had a little lounge where most of us, and I was all excited about everything I learned about. And I'm telling Colleen about the whole thing and she said, we do that, we do that.
Wow.
We do that.
Only because we just went through it. It's quite fresh in my mind.
So I thought, okay, so we're good there. The second one was on gun safety, and I wanted to know how they were going to portray this. Guns, it's a program in place in 17 districts throughout the state. And it's incorporated into their health curriculums, and it's about gun safety. And my big question was, how do you take the Second Amendment out of this controversy? And without going into a whole lot of detail, the program that they have in place does. Because very simply, it says whether you're a home with guns, without guns, however you feel about them, illegal guns, this is what your child needs to know to be safe. So they don't care what's going on in terms of who's got what, but they want to make sure that if people have guns in their home, they're secure. And if children are coming from homes where there are no guns, the children need to know what to do or what to say if they're in a home with a gun that's unsecured, and for safety. And it's for safety for everybody, so they don't pass judgment about whatever your feelings are about guns, whatever your feelings are about the Second Amendment. And it was very, very effective. And what was really interesting was one of the panelists was the superintendent of North Adams. And the Saturday before Sandy Hook, she was mentoring the principal of Sandy Hook Elementary School. And the Saturday before the shooting took place in Sandy Hook, she was on the phone for 3 hours, she said, with the principal, because the principal was getting pushback from the parents in Sandy Hook about the fact that the principal was insisting on the door being locked, and the parents didn't like it. It didn't matter anyway because of what happened there. But and when the superintendent was talking about this, you could hear the catch in her voice. The emotion was still there, and it was so hard for her to talk about it. But on the other hand, she's pushing this program, and she got her license to carry. So she thought if she was going to talk about this stuff, she wanted to know what she was talking about. A member of the audience who was a firearm instructor and a range trainer was there. He was also a school committee member from Everett or wherever. He was listening for the other side of this, the Second Amendment. And he raved about this at the end publicly, that this was the most effective way to train everyone, children, on gun safety without getting into the politics, the adult politics of it. So I thought that was great. And wouldn't have stayed had it not been for the guilt that the chair put on all of us, because at breakfast that morning, we were talking about maybe scooting out, like around 10 o'clock and get home early. And Mrs. Chamberlain announced at the table that, the district paid for you to be here. So the guilt kicked in, we stayed, and I'm glad I did that. Thank you.
I will point out it was his first time, so.
Walter, did you?
Oh, yeah, obviously I went too. So it was basically around the corner here, of us, and the superintendent, of course. The first one I went to was Todd Stewart, if you know Camp Putnam, he was one of the presenters. He did a great job. It was on strategic problem solving. I have the slides for that if anybody wants them. That was a pretty complex course, and I'm gonna have to look the slides over myself to get a better understanding of that. I went on another one on sense of belonging, and when I saw the Hubbardston kids here, and they use that word belonging and help them belonging, and it really brought back that class, because that's one of the big things that was, getting all the kids and to help other kids with belonging, and lunch buddies and things like that. I did a lot of the same things that everybody else did. One of the things that I really liked was we had a presentation by Tim Shriver. I think that was the nighttime on Thursday. That we have dinner, we have a big dinner, and they have the speaker. And he's, of course, Tim Shriver, I think he's the son of Sergeant Shriver, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a Kennedy. He looked like a Kennedy. He talked like a Kennedy. He was very inspiring. It was, basically good solutions on dealing with people with whom we disagreed, and how we can not show contempt. Contempt was the word he seemed to really be key on, and keep the contempt out of it, and he'd probably get along with people. There you go. I've got a couple of those too.
He created the dignity index.
Yeah.
So you can kind of check yourself where you are. We can maybe copy these and share them if you want.
Then, so I did the collective bargaining one. It was interesting because, you know, there's always new things with collective bargaining that come up every year or every session, you know, the unions come up with new ideas on how to play the game. So, you know, it kind of helped us be ready for that. That's coming up. So we're going to be doing that. Another one that was good was the, on Friday, the one that some people wanted to go home early on, that we stayed for, was the Art of Listening with Chris Horan, and that was a good one. I think that was the one where they did the tent, right? Was that the one with the tent?
No, I think it was the Chris Horan's the day before.
Oh, the day
Yeah,
before.
that one we went to.
Anyway, that was a good one.
That was
and then
also on communication.
The lunch speaker was the Massachusetts Teacher of the Year, who was really good. You know, he was a really good speaker, and we just enjoyed that a lot. And that was it.
Most of us did. Doug Gravel?
Yeah, I'm sort of following up on what Lee said about information that we have to present. When I prepare for something like this, I think the key points, what's the state average per pupil? What's our cost per pupil? And where are we in the MCAS or whatever we want to use as a critic? Just, you know, Lee's right, it has to be simple. And when they have a candidates night or something like that, those three pieces of information. And I think if we could have that passed around to all the school committee members, I think, you know, we get buttonholed at the dump or at the coffee shop or whatever.
Yeah, I think if we can find those flyers, because the slides, I took pictures of the slides on the TV, and when you zoom in, you can't really read them well. So, but I think if I sent them to Jess.
I think we can get the gist. I
think
shared
we
them with
can get the
Julia.
gist and maybe come up with our own Quabbin version.
Yes.
So something, yes, so we can kind of keep them in our car, and when we're talking to people, hand them out, and but yeah, the point of the tent was communicating and being transparent and open with our community. So if we have a presence and they expect us to see us here, maybe more people will engage with us, you know, in a less formal setting, and, you know, they may be a little freer to ask questions, and, you know, maybe we could include teachers if they wanted to come, or other staff members, or, you know, one or two committee members, or, so I think, you know, I know we have meetings and all our own obligations, but I think if, you know, maybe we could coordinate some of this outreach. The superintendent's been doing it, and, you know, we can do a little bit, I think, as well, so.
And maybe some of this could be in your letter to the paper.
Sure.
So like one idea that came to my head too, thinking about the school district, we wanted to do outreach, especially like the Hubbardson Fair stuff, like maybe it could be a kid's activity to draw.
Well, that,
You know, maybe it's like.
that's what they said.
Or-
Wherever the activities are, Hubbardston, you know, we're lucky to have Katie Young, and we have a big list of activities going on all the time in our town. But Quabbin should have a presence there, right? Just throw up the tent and hand out our air fresheners or whatever, and just talk to the community, so.
You'll definitely get people to come over.
Yeah, so I think it's something we should work towards.
Yeah, there was, the idea was there was a canopy tent, couple tables there. Everybody's got the same T-shirt on, maybe a little in what your role is. And, you know, you're there at the community event, and you answer questions from people at the moment. So, try to get somebody from administration, committee, students, and, you know,
yeah,
I think it's a good way for us to get our message out.
Anyone else? Would you like to share?
That was covered everything.
Okay,
Will we adjourn?
wait, let's
Wait.
see, what do we got?
Executive
No
session.
request for executive session? Do we have a second?
Sure.
Meeting adjourned.